chapter clicked in to College Volleyball Weekly on Viral Volley Media. Now here's your host, Rob on mic.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to College Volleyball Weekly Men's Top 20 Week 10 recap. And we have an EIVA versus Big West episode because on the call today, Sam Schweisky of the Princeton University, along with Jay Hosick of George Mason, the EIVA half. But then, wait, we got the Big West bros on the screen. That's Theo Edwards of Cal State Northridge and Brad Rostratter of UC San Diego. And Dan Fran will be coming in hot because he's got more important business with the NCAA going on today. So, but he'll come in. Gentlemen, good day to y'all.
I just want to start off this episode by saying that we all should have the word "the" in front of our schools, like the George Mason, the CSUN, the UC San Diego. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, Theo's already got a "the," so he'd just be O. The O Edwards.
Nice.
So, with that, I'm going to go to our social media shout outs because we got two photographers this week. New one came up, Pics by Elzak. That's Pixbylzak. Took some incredible pictures of the Ohio State McKendree match this weekend and did some filter enhancements. They look super cool. So, and also someone who's been doing this for a long time at earning nothing is Jim Wolf. Southern California based, but you'll find him up and down the California coast, anywhere from UC San Diego all the way up to Stanford, Long Beach, UCLA, anything that's big, he is at in California. That's men's volleyball and beach. I've seen him beach. So be sure to follow him. That's Jim Wolf 9426. Posted some great NCAA collegiate men's stuff as well as Pics by Elzak. So with that, the only news that I've got that I'm going to jump into really quick is the NCAA put out a graphic. Just a reminder, NCAA Men's Volleyball Championship tickets on sale for May 9th and 11th at UCLA. You can easily go to NCAAtickets.com or UCLA Athletics website. They've got a graphic there. So
hold on. One more thing before we get started. If you're paying attention, everybody, Nick Saban is in front of Congress right now talking to whoever is heading this up in government regarding the future of college athletics. And one of the things that they are talking about is the future of Olympic sports and where all this is headed now with revenue share and everything. So stay tuned, everybody, because there seems to be some dust up going on, and Nick Saban is a great voice for not only football and basketball, because those are obviously the main sports driving, but he's talking about Olympic sports too and how we can save them and not lose them in the lurch. So pay attention, everyone, to what's going on, because seems to be something going on, and we'll hear more as it unfolds.
Excellent call, Jay. With that, let's drift into our elephant in the room segment, which is what the coaches on the screen's teams did this last week. And let's start with our guest, Sam Schweisky of Princeton.
So last week we didn't play any matches, but we were responsible for a CSUN loss. We're going to take responsibility for that. 100% on me. We scheduled Brad and Theo the wrong week. And I called him in a panic this summer and I said, I got you guys in the wrong week. Can we switch the weeks? And they very graciously agreed. But that pushed Big West start earlier last week, which unfortunately didn't give Theo enough time to prepare. As we know, the Big West starts super early. So this sort of moved earlier. I know Jay's a big proponent of that. And so unfortunately, Theo didn't have enough time to prepare for the Fightin' Tritons, and they took a loss. But I'm going to take responsibility for that. That's on us. So you can put the L in our column, and they're still 0-0 when they face each other next week. So my apologies.
Well, I just want to add that there was sarcasm for all you who can't, see what Sam is doing on screen, because the leading team in the Big West is UC Santa Barbara at 1-0, whereas other teams in other conferences already have 5 or 6 matches under their belt. So Hopefully you got that, but there's some good stuff there because Sam taking the credit for the win last week. So, um, but let's talk a little bit about your Princeton team here before going into this last week off. Where were you guys at? And I want to have the other guys comment on the stuff as well.
Yeah, I would say, and we're looking forward to playing Brad and Theo this week because they're very talented teams. And so far, the makeup of our team this year is we played really great against great teams. So we went 4 with USC when we were out here, almost pushed them to a 5th set. We went 5 with Penn State, kind of back home on the East. So we seem to rise to the occasion. Our ceiling seems to be pretty high. Unfortunately, our floor seems to be equally as low. And so trying to figure out a way to rise the floor and keep the ceiling high has been our goal this year. We graduated 2 pretty prolific 4-year starters, 2 All-Americans last year in Henry Webbush and Nero Omene. And so we're trying to find the pieces that fit back together to find the winning equation. But if Penn State taught us anything last year, it was you don't have to be good until you have to be good. And that's at the very end. And so we're trying to find the recipe as we go along to figure it out and see if we can get it going at the right time.
All right, let's get the other guys' thoughts on the Princeton team in 2026. Shall we start with the West Coast folk? Sure. Let's go with Brad. He's been a little quiet today.
Yeah, I'm just as far as the recipe, what ingredients are going to be starting tonight or Wednesday, Sam?
Yes, people, Princeton at UCSD tonight, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, I was looking for you yesterday at Serve and Pass. I was going to invite you to our Serve and Pass to get some notes and your brain. I didn't see you.
I was off the grid.
Okay.
Anyone else have a
But
question?
yeah, no. But in a more serious note, like obviously losing Henry and Nero are 2 huge volleyball players, but even bigger roles, I'd imagine, on and off the court in terms of leadership. What are some of those perspectives that guys have had to fill in or kind of replace from the departure of those guys to move forward in their careers?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hardest, you had a setter who was a 4-year starter and then an opposite who just passed and did a whole bunch of things for us. And so, the 2 of them leaving on the court, but like you said, off the court has been the hardest to kind of find some voices to fill up, times and timeouts and times, outside the court to sort of organize guys. And so we've done it by committee. We have several captains who have chipped in and added to that. But it's, when the stress hits in a match, some guys are really focused on their game, and that's totally valid and understandable. But you're looking for guys who can play their game, play well, and then lift up other guys around them. And so we're still sort of looking for the guys when the lights hit and when you've got some talented players coming at you across the net, can you still stay kind of steady hand and work together is kind of what we're looking for. So we'll see. I mean, we're excited to be out here this week. We were reminiscing last week. We came out and played the 2 of you guys in Long Beach, and that was really a turning point in our season last year. I don't know. I think we took a set off both you guys, and then we pushed Long Beach in one of those sets. So we didn't win one of the matches, but we came back in a very different mindset. Ended up going on, I think, an 8-2 run, and then hosted the conference championship in the IVA. So the West Coast swing for us is always really impactful, and we're excited to do it again this week.
Excellent. Anyone else, or shall we move on?
It's Princeton. Sam will figure something out. He'll dial it around. He'll put players in different positions. I wouldn't be surprised to see his setter play libero and his libero play middle and his outside playing opposite. There's all kinds of different lineups that Sam's got. And, to be honest with you, that's what you do when you're a coach. You're a good coach. You figure it out. You find the pieces that fit best in the right spots. And, yeah, losing Nero and Webbush are 2 obviously very big pieces that Princeton has relied on heavily for the last couple of years, and rightfully so. And he'll figure it out. He's got talented guys in the gym. I'm sure, he's got them dialing up in all kinds of weird spots in the practice gym. So don't be surprised, Brad and Theo, if you see a completely different lineup and different spots when you guys play Sam. But Sam will figure it out. He's a smart guy.
Yeah, we've seen a setter playing middle most recently.
Yeah, I think this is a team that really has just been garnering experience, right? And they've got some guys out there now that are starting to get some experience underneath their belts, and leaning a little bit heavy on pins that haven't been in the lineup for him in the past. And CISA knows what that's all about. You lose some valuable pins and have to have some guys in there that got to take some lumps, figure some things out before they start getting it rolling. And I got no doubt that Sam's going to get it rolling here pretty shortly.
Cool. Well, that's an excellent segue because let's go westward to Theo's Matadors of CSUN about taking lumps this week. So talk about your
Yeah.
week there.
We know about taking lumps. We went down to San Diego and played Brad, and they were ready for us. You know, coming off of the week that they had prior against Vanguard. Obviously,
Vanguard.
Vanguard.
It's like Van Morrison.
He really loves. No, but they came in and did some great things. You know, I think one of the things that we've talked about a ton on this podcast is kind of the difference of teams serving when they're at home, and I really thought that the Tritons did a tremendous job putting pressure on us from the end line, and I don't think that we respond incredibly well to that. At least haven't quite yet in this season, especially when we've been on the road and got us into some tough situations, and we made a ton of uncostly errors and just struggled to put the pressure back on them. I thought we had a kind of a shining moment in the third set, put some pressure on them, had an early lead, and just weren't able to close it out. So I thought Brad and his crew did a tremendous job, and we're excited to kind of get back at them at home this week.
That's your lone match for the week. I know that, with the NCAA season expanding or going longer 1 week, was that an intentional only one match week for you, Theo?
I mean, we did have some other matches planned, Rob, if you remember how we started this, and other coach on the screen. We had to shuffle some things around, and we played on a Tuesday as our lone match. Not ideal, but hey, here we are.
All right. Well, let's go over to Brad, because he actually had two matches this last week. So
Hey, hold on.
Comment on Theo's. Sorry, my bad.
You're not going to let us comment on this? I know.
Yeah, go for it.
Guys don't take. Listen, I watched the Northridge and San Diego match, and here's what I noticed most. I watched the San Diego serving prowess, and Brad, I don't know if you have the ability to or not, or maybe you do and I just don't see it, but I wish you would have a radar gun on the serve speed, because I'm not going to lie to you. I watched that match a little bit live, and then I watched it on Volleymetrics. There were serves that seemed to me to be in the 80 to 90 mile an hour range with curve and all kinds of craziness. And I kept looking at it going, man, that looks really fast. And then I noticed that my Volleymetrics speed was at 1.5 when I was watching it. So it sped it up a little bit, but then I put it back to normal speed, and it still looked like they were serving BBs at 80 miles an hour. So I give kudos to the serving prowess. One of the things I know, people knock men's volleyball on the amount of missed serves that we have every set. You have to serve like that. You've got to knock people off the net, because you keep giving them easy ones, they're going to ram it down your throat. And Brad's team did a really, really nice job of serving tough and knocking Northridge off the net a little bit and taking some of their offensive weapons away. And it made it a little bit more one-dimensional. And Brad capitalized on that. It was a good match. It was fun to watch, but I got to credit the serving. I think that, to me, was the real big difference.
Yep.
And Jay, you live by the sword, die by the sword. And at some point this fall, that sword was a few of those guys hit one too many balls into the serve speed gun, and it got busted. So so that is why it's no longer there.
There's your answer. I did not know that.
Yeah, I want to double down on that. So we were Brad took care of us yesterday. We had a nice serve and pass at San Diego, and then he set us up in a nice film room to watch some film. And so we're watching film. We go through all the rotations, all the attackers, which is much easier when you're not playing against someone like us, and you kind of have a sense of who might play where. And so we watch all the guys, and then we go into the serving, and I start clicking through Sani's serves, and we're trying to get our guys to be more interactive and ask questions. And so we're just clicking through his serves, and one freshman raises his hand and he goes, Are these did you cut out the missed serves? Or are these all of his serves? And I go, no, these are, and then he missed one. I think he missed one or two in a 5-set match. And I go, no, these are all of his serves. And they're like, oh, well, that's going to be a problem. That looks pretty good. So yeah, to Jay's point, they're serving well, they're serving hard, and they're serving in, which I think is kind of the golden thing we ask for. We try to get away from hard or in. We want hard and in. And Brad's figured out a way to do that. So hopefully not tonight, but moving forward, I wish him all the best.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
one of the things to add in there is that between him and Prevendikov, I think they hit the sideline on the line 6 times in 3 sets. And it was impressive. I mean, with heat and really, really tough to get to. So, yeah, good luck, Sam.
Appreciate it.
All right. Anything else? If not, we drift over to Brad and his Tritons of UC San Diego. We good? All right. You're up, Brad.
Yeah, so obviously we touched on Northridge, the matchup we had, the Tuesday matchup, the coveted Taco Tuesday matchup. So clearly the San Diego taco shops are better than the LA taco shops based on the result of the Tuesday match. And then we went up to Santa Barbara, and Santa Barbara was really interesting match for us. We offensively, it was probably some of the best our offenses has looked throughout the year. And really kind of the irony is we talk about serving and Theo's talking about us tagging sidelines. Well, Santa Barbara destroyed us by tagging the end line 15 times for 15 aces against us in a 5-set match, which was a very impressive performance by their servers. And really all of them from their middles to their setters to their opposites and outsides. It was one of those matches where we tried everything. We tried to pass with 4 and tried a few different things, and just couldn't quite fight off the serves enough. And if you're getting ace that much, it's really hard to win a match. And then especially in a 5th set when you're giving up three aces and 1 overpass, I believe, it makes it extremely difficult for a team to win that race to 15. So they got the better end of us on that side of things, especially with their serving prowess that they showed and they demonstrated against us.
Yep. All right. Let's comment in on the Tritons panel.
15 aces in 5 sets and 3 in the 5th is ridiculous. And this is, a great example of when serving is on, the damage that you can do. And let's just comment for a second here. Santa Barbara was in last place, but the Big West, the way that they are, they're now in 1st place. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. But no, in all seriousness, a match where it's like watching pitchers that are pitchers and not just hurlers. They're actually moving the ball around and forcing batters to have to take some swings that maybe they don't want to. But in this kind of game, you got servers that are just bringing it, and it went their way because it very easily could have gone the other way, right? They could have been 1 foot longer all the way around, and it could have just been 15 more errors instead of 15 aces. And that could have been the difference in the match. But I have no doubt that Brad will regroup from that. I mean, you kind of look at your players at one point and just kind of throw up your hands and go, hey, it is what it is. See what we can do. If we're not able to contain the serves, then we got to be able to be better in some other spots. And Santa Barbara just proved to be better that night. So hats off to Rick and his crew. It's a good win.
Yep. All right. That brings us to Jay and his George Mason Patriots.
Well, I just wanted to
okay.
comment. Yeah, on that match quickly. I've watched that match a couple times, mainly just to prep for the podcast, make sure that I was educated. But yeah, I mean, just looking at San Diego, which is what I was mainly looking at, Sonny with 16 kills and Chandler with 15 kills. I mean, you have such a balanced attack between the two of them, and then so many other options, right? Prevendikov, as Theo mentioned, but then Ewart, the different things that Brad can do with those 4 pins, whether it's to maximize passing or serving, balance with the lefty and the right. It's just a really a lot of different options that they can do to solve problems and cause problems for other people. So, I'm definitely scratching my head on how we're going to solve some of those issues tonight, but I'm definitely also looking forward to see what Brad can do with those pieces as he moves on in the Big West competition, because I think he's suited to do well with that.
Will the match be streamed live?
Yeah.
Good. Finally.
Yep. All right. That's Jay's George Mason Patriots. What was your week like, Jay?
Well, I'll start off with the good stuff. We went down to Charlotte and played against my old assistant coach, Roger Peluso, and his Queens team, who, just recently beat Ohio State in their place. And we knew that they were going to be a tough match. And, it proved to be true. They got some guys that can bring it. And my guys showed a little grit, a little resiliency. And I was really happy with that. And, we ended up winning the match in 4, and it was a good performance by our guys. We weren't exactly very crisp, but we learned that we have some other weapons that we can utilize. And we took care of that match, feeling pretty good about going into Belmont Abbey the next day. The thing about Belmont Abbey that people don't realize is, they have some great players, some kids that transferred into that program, but Derek does a really nice job of training those kids up. They play with a huge chip on their shoulder, especially when they're playing Division I teams, and they've got some experience, and experience matters. It's not, anybody could say with an all freshman team, like, hey, we haven't really figured it out. We don't know what it looks and feels like yet. And talent sometimes can win out in some of those matches, but experience matters. When you've been there and you've done that, and you know what it feels like, and you know how to ride the highs and the lows, you're gonna be okay. Belmont Abbey took it to us. The first set was close, and we gave up a couple of runs here and there, but they took it to us like we were standing still. And I got to give hats off to them. They handle us, and we did not have a response. And I put in some guys that maybe don't get a lot of playing time, trying to just put some new energy on the court, and we just didn't have an answer. They have Puentes, and they have Caden Day, and they have Joe, their setter, and Joe Morris, and he runs a really good offense. And I think the kid had a fever the night before, so to come in that next day and maybe not feeling 100% and running the offense they did, I got to give hats off to Belmont Abbey. They played really, really well. They're going to be a handful going down the road, because anybody who sees them, if they play like they did against us, it's not going to be an easy match. And right now, I think it's them, Barton, and Mount Olive that are probably the top three teams in the Conference Carolinas. And we beat Mount Olive earlier. We see Barton this Friday. We're going to get a good look as to what the competition level is in that Conference Carolinas, but it's getting better every year. And could this be the year that a Conference Carolina team picks off somebody in the playoff round, if they make it through, obviously, through the Conference Carolinas? Could this be the year? And I would not be surprised. They're that good. And if you're not paying attention to them, you're going to get stung pretty bad. So that's what happened to us. Didn't end the weekend the way we wanted to, but, we'll regroup. We'll figure it out. We'll move on.
Well, just want to point out that Belmont Abbey, Mount Olive tied for first in Conference Carolinas at 5-1, but Belmont Abbey's overall record 10-2. So you got to watch that come conference tournament time. They could push through, potentially lose in their tournament, at large bid potential.
And their only loss is to Barton.
Yep. So let's all panelists comment on the Patriots. Jump in.
Yeah, I think just from the Belmont Abbey side of things, Jabril Eldad is a pretty phenomenal blocker. Like, I think offensively, he's been a little bit more up and down this season. I think last year he snuck up on a few more people, and now I think some more teams are scheming against them. So he's seeing a few less balls, but just moves so well along the net. So he's impressive. And then I thought Caden Day played really well. Offensively, he was good. Serve receive, he was good. And then on the flip side, with Jay looking at the Queens and the Belmont Abbey match, and also kind of just looking at some EIVA stuff leading into the match with Sam tonight, I think Jay's on track to be potentially one of the best passing teams in the EIVA if he's not already at that point, with how those guys are passing. And with Evangelista, who's kind of a converted right side that's been passing a little bit more, at least to my knowledge, and really seems like he's been starting to figure some things out as a passer. And I think Kins is playing really good at libero and serve receive. So yeah, I think that's an interesting piece to watch going into the unknown EIVA, and how the postseason is going to shake out. Is a team that can pass is a team that can beat anyone on any given night.
I really appreciate, by the way, just quickly, I really appreciate how Sam got cut off at the moment when you started talking about our passers in the IDA. So,
I did not do that, just for the record.
Way to go, Rob. Way to go, Rob.
Yeah, I think just looking at George Mason as a whole, and just, reminding the crew here that, they obviously had some injuries early that have kind of had to have them redefine the roles and who's doing what and what's going on with this group. But I think they're doing a tremendous job, and Evangelista is obviously a big part of that. But let's give a shout out to Alexander Lilly. I mean, this dude, we've talked about him multiple times, but on the weekend, this guy had 21 swings, 14 kills, hit 571 in those two matches. This dude's a serious force to be reckoned with, and is having one heck of a year so far. So excited to see how that guy goes. But yeah, no doubt that Jay gets these guys rolling, and they're finding their stride. It's 1 minute they're hot, the next minute they're not. and we all know what that's about. So good work by Mason.
Yeah, excellent call. Well, I don't know if Sam's going to make it back in here because I don't see him jumping back in. So I guess we move on from there. Um, Wanted to jump into, gosh, and I really want to get his thoughts on these week's matches. So let's go ahead without Sam of Princeton until they can find an internet connection, apparently. So matches of the week. I'll let you guys choose and direct the path here because there were a few that we were watching. So go for it. Who wants to jump in?
I'll go last. I'll let these guys talk first. I've got a few here.
Theo, you got it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest ones that we're probably going to discuss is Pepperdine in Hawaii, right?
Good call.
I got an opportunity to watch one of them, but didn't get to see both. And it seemed to me what was really interesting is you saw the offense of Hawaii be better than Pepperdine both nights. Obviously, with two very differing results. And anytime you have something like that take place, I'm always wondering, hey, what happened, right? What was the situation here? And for sure, it was aces, right? And specifically, I think in night one, Pepperdine had 7 aces to Hawaii's 4, and just at the right moments was a little bit cleaner and found ways to close sets with Cole Harkey and Barnett, who I thought both had a really, really tremendous performance. Both of these teams, I thought just watching that first match, the serving was fantastic. I mean, there were some moments where there were some errors, but the pressure was tough. And both teams, I think their first ball side out percentage was right around 35%. So a lot of pressure kind of going from both sides of the net. And I thought this was a tremendous matchup. It's really interesting to see how this impacts kind of the AVCA rankings and kind of what happens, right? Pepperdine's able to successfully win a match on the island, which we all know is incredibly difficult. But I'm interested to hear what the other coaches' takes are on this matchup.
All right, Sam's back. Thank you. Apparently, someone didn't pay their internet bill at the cheap hotel that Brad put you up at.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Tijuana Dreams Hotel, right over there, right next to the border. Is that where you're staying?
Yeah, we're actually over the border. We hope we can get through customs tonight for the match.
All right, so jump in Pepperdine Hawaii series.
I'm sorry, I got kicked off. I did want to mention something about Jay's match. I got kicked off right as we were doing that. I just wanted to say, obviously I know the George Mason team fairly well from being in the same conference, but looking at some of the numbers, Lily 9 kills on the Queens match, 9 kills, 583. Evangelista 12 kills, and then Yorgi. I think Yorgi won AVCA National Player.
Congratulations, Jay,
of the week. Mason can win a match or lose a match. It doesn't really doesn't mean much to me. That team is a high level team, especially my current assistant is Jay's former assistant, and so having some insight into their setter and that guy's mindset and what that guy can do with an offense, I think that team is well poised to do some pretty special things down the road. As we say, Jay, you got some nice pieces, and I think they're going to do some damage. I'm not looking forward to tangling horns in a few weeks, and I'm excited to see what you do come playoff time. But I think that's a good team waiting to do some good things.
Cool. Good stuff.
Moving on to the Hawaii Pep, I'll comment just briefly. First of all, absolutely love the Hawaii fans coming out in droves. The first night I think they had 6,000 some change. The second night they had 8,000 some change. Playing in that kind of atmosphere, the fans know they have a special team and they know they've got the right players. I think to me, the electric crowd can come into a little bit of a favor for Hawaii for obvious reasons. But it looked to me, just from an outsider's perspective, that the first night maybe Rosenthal didn't look like he was connecting as well as he did the second night. The second night he was just on and he just looked really, really good. For those of you that are concerned about the opposite position for the USA national team moving on in the future, Harkey and Wade are both two very capable people that I think will come into that gym. And I know Harkey's already been there, but that opposite position looks pretty good. And Wade's doing some nice things. He had 19 kills, hitting 350 on night 2. That's pretty good against a big blocking Pepperdine team. So it's fun. It's creating some parity. But yeah, there's about 5 or 6 teams in the country that are starting to separate themselves a little bit, and both of those teams are in that group for sure.
Yeah. All right, the Big West guys are staying quiet on the Hawaii Pepperdine matchup here.
Yeah, I think from my end, you had serving, and it was interesting where night one, both teams served pretty good, and both teams passed pretty good. Then night two, both teams served even better and passed a little bit worse, which was really, really interesting. And then I thought overall, just I thought the two biggest differences from night one to night two is you had Tread Rosenthal connecting with Traval Jordan and running the middle of the court like crazy. 20 attempts for Jordan for a middle in a 5-set or in a 4-set match is massive. And doing it at a super effective clip on top of that. So I thought that connection and the development of that connection continues to be something to watch, because with how high Tread can take the ball and the physicality of both their middles, but especially Traval, is really, really impressive. And then I think, the emergence of Kainoa Wade, and by emergence, I mean just his consistency within the lineup as a starter, where obviously he was going back and forth with Tritsky for a while, even back into last season, has been massive, and he's played so steady and so consistent. And even night one where they lost, I thought he was a big reason why he was keeping them in that match, while some other guys are struggling a little bit more. And then on the other side, you got Cole Hartke, who continues to play really, really well and continues to show his bright future in our sport with what he's doing on the right side, and even sprinkling in a little bit of serve receive and just his physicality and what he can do at the net and in the back row. And then you have Jose Gomez, who obviously there's been a little bit of rotating of outside hitters for Pepperdine, and seeing Gomez really step up and fill into that role where he had moments where he was the best player on the court at times. And I think that's got to be really promising for the Waves and for looking at their future and how they're going to compete within the MPSF.
Yeah. Brad? I'm sorry, Theo. Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I started this off, but I'll add that the fact that Grant Lamore, right, him not being in the lineup much anymore. And
I gotta say Lamoureux. I got corrected. So
it's Lamoureux?
Yes.
Well, you learn something new every day, huh, Jay?
Well, as you would like to put it, Theo, Lamoureux.
Yeah, I think to have the talent to keep Grant on the bench and kind of talking to Brad's point, like for Gomez to be playing well enough to kind of solidify himself in that spot, shows really the quality of ball that he's playing. It's pretty impressive, and this Pepperdine team is one of the biggest just in terms of the lineups. I mean, they are super, super physical at the net and dangerous. Obviously, Hawaii knows it now, but this is a pretty cool matchup.
Yep. 3 points I wanted to add on. One, Tread Rosenthal grew another inch, so he's 7-1 officially because he's been growing every week of the season. And he got his 100th ace of the season, or his career. Other point of interest was Kainoa Wade was, and this is per the Hawaii commentators, Kanoa Leahy and CMAC, he was basically neutralized in the first 2 sets of night one and kicked it up. And you look at his final numbers, he still ended just, I think, at 20 kills off the top of my head and hit over 350. So he turned it around and kept Hawaii in that match. But one of the other storylines that I caught in there, excellent job by the commentator crew there, Jose Gomez defected from Cuba through the Canadian border in through, I believe it was Wyoming or Wisconsin. I think it's Wyoming. Didn't know English, taught himself English, earned his way and got into Pepperdine. So, I was like, wow, good for you. So, great success story for Gomez of Pepperdine. So
that's not the first time that's happened for Pepperdine and BYU. They seem to find these kids somewhere. I don't know what agency they're working with, but they've had some number of kids over the years that go to those 2 schools and those 2 programs playing for some pretty big coaches that everybody kind of looks at it and goes, where did that kid come from? So this story is as good as it is, not surprising.
Yeah, I think he is playing at a U17 tournament in Canada, and that's how he defected. But I'll have to go back and listen. But it was amazing hearing that. So
I don't have much to add. I just wanted to say I think Brad mentioned Travell Jordan 15 kills 600 is pretty impressive, but I think Tread Rosenthal 6 kills 750. You start to see something similar to what Long Beach was able to do last year when the setter can be that physical at the net and take the ball that deceptively. I think it adds a lot of stress on the opponent. And then just looking at Cole Harkey's numbers, 24 kills, 346 the first night. That's obviously tremendous. The second night, them holding him to 20 kills, 230. I mean, holding to 20 kills is a crazy sentence to say, but getting him down to 236, I mean, that's 100 points less. That's a block and defense adjustment by Hawaii, which makes the difference, right? If that's the main guy and he's getting a few less kills per set, they're digging or touching a few more balls, that can make a difference, especially last set, 36-34. So kudos to them for making some adjustments and figuring some stuff out on night two.
Yep. We had 4 players at double-digit kills in night 2. They're all hitting close to north over 300. While Tread Rosenthal, had they gone more sets, probably would have got double-digit kills. He was 6 kills, 0 errors, hitting 750 while chucking in 56 assists. So, very potent Hawaii team without a doubt. So, good choice for Theo to start us off. Let's go to Sam. Let's pick a match that you want to discuss here.
Well, let's see. I have my notes. I got notes, guys.
Uh-oh. The smart guy with notes. We just kind of make stuff up. I mean, that's how we roll.
Well, I'll tell you, I want to talk about what's looking to be, I guess you guys call it Mevageddon. Lindenwood, Ohio State, I thought was a interesting match, right? Lindenwood defeats Ohio State. Brandon Luthane, 11 kills, 364. I just checked the Meva standings. Looks like Lindenwood's in first place, which is not shocking because they're such a strong team this year, but just with the parity and teams beating each other, it's kind of exciting. Lindenwood's a program that's been sort of in the middle of the pack the last couple of years, and to watch them kind of build and grow and recruit a bunch of talented guys. And, I'm excited to see what they can do. But yeah, that's a big win over Ohio State. And I don't have it. I think there was a couple other Lewis defeated PFW. Someone else beat someone else, but the Meva is going to be a hell of a ride.
Is your timing right there? Because Dan Friend's coming on. You say, yeah, PFW beat Lewis. Oh, there's Dan.
No. Lewis defeated PFW. Let's not mix my words up as my mentor, my old mentor gets on the line here. But I was saying, I think Lindenwood over Ohio State is a huge win for Lindenwood, and really, just keeps adding to their resume what they can do this year. So it's pretty impressive performance.
With that, let's say hi to Dan Friend of Lewis, who jumps on after doing important stuff. So,
hey Sam, how are you?
Hey buddy, nice to see you.
Sorry guys, sorry fans. I'm late today. I have an NCA meeting. So
anything you want to spill out of the jar?
No, this is a different one. This is the NCA Collegiate Championship meeting. So this is where the 10 or 11 collegiate championships each have a representative that kind of meet. And so we talk about how some things are affecting all the D2 schools that compete in the collegiate championship space. So women's ice hockey, water polo, rifle, gymnastics, all that stuff. So
gotcha. Well, we're talking about Sam's pick of the week. He went in with Lindenwood, Ohio State. So let's let the rest of the panel comment on that matchup. Jump in.
I think with Lindenwood, a common theme is just their serving, and they're floating around the 9, 10, 11% ace mark. That's going to create a lot of chaos and make it really hard for some teams, and especially just thinking about the Lindenwood Ohio State matchup, to where there's a lot of physicality on the court there. And I thought Lindenwood was a little bit better in serve receive and a little bit better with their serve, which ended up giving them the difference making points come down to the end of those sets, where this match they were at 9% ace as opposed to Ohio State being at 7% ace, and both teams airing in the mid 20s with that. So when the service airs are about equal, that percentage point that's 1 or 2 extra points per set for Lindenwood there. So that serving continues to be a massive piece there. And then Zach Solomon continues to be running a great offense and setting and playing just some high-level volleyball for Lindenwood across the board.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, the notes that I had taken on this match really Essentially, they had 7 aces, right, against Ohio State. That's impressive. The more impressive piece is that they did it with 5 different servers. And so the way that Lindenwood plays this game, the pressure, if you have 1 or 2 servers on another team that are really tough to deal with, it can be really difficult, right? And every time that server comes up, you're a little bit concerned. With Lindenwood, they have about 5 different servers that can ace you. And it makes the whole entire match incredibly difficult. And obviously then you get to the red zone and they've got another server coming up that's going to be another problem for you. And yeah, I mean, Zach Solomon has been phenomenal. I think the other thing that's really interesting is we've talked a lot about Zach, we've talked a lot about Luthane, and I feel like that's been kind of the standard procedure. In the beginning of the year, Kraft, their lefty opposite, who came in and who has been electric of late. In the beginning of the year, he probably was hitting like 150, 160, 170 at one point. Was playing well, but really not quite found his rhythm yet, was not really there. The last 5 matches, he's hitting 359. Has really found his stride and has been incredibly productive on the right side of the floor. And obviously, what he's been able to do from the service line has been really, really impressive. This Lindenwood team's dangerous.
Yep. All right. Anyone else? Jay, Dan?
No, I mean, like I think you said most of it. I mean, Lindenwood is in a space where I think they're the most consistent out of the MIVA right now. And the biggest thing is your mid-season and the sustainability, which I think they can. I mean, they've got the talent, but that'll be the big keys is like making sure you don't peak too soon. You can sustain. You got, what, 5 weeks, half the conference games left. And as you guys know, the conference is certainly a battle for sure. So I think it'll be, and stay healthy is always a big key piece too from the pieces they have from where they're at. So,
Yep. Jay, do you have something to say? I look like you're about to.
No, I'm actually no. I listen. Lindenwood's good, and I'm watching everything going on with the MIVA, and we've been saying it for a while, and I'll say it again. So, and my match that I'm going to talk about next, will explain it. This MIVA this year is absolutely bonkers. So,
All right, go ahead, Jay. You're ready jumping in. So let's talk about pick it.
let's talk about PFW, Purdue Fort Wayne beating Loyola at Loyola. That's a
And
good
that's
match.
after Loyola beat Ball State, who was 9.
And after Lewis beat PFW. Like that's just nutty. PFW has got some players that maybe you haven't heard of before, but and if I pronounce his name incorrectly, please forgive me. But Huisden, Carlo Huisden, is that how you pronounce his last name? All right. Well, if I mispronounce it, correct me, somebody. But Carlos Huisden had 10 kills at 400. The thing for me that seemed to ring true in this match, the first ball kill percentage for PFW was 245. Which is, it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. But Loyola only hit 195. And then the transition for, I'm sorry, 162. But the transition, PFW hit 195. Loyola only hit 024. That to me was the big difference in the match. And, Loyola, I'm hearing some rumblings about a player being out here and there, the setter not being in full time, or Sosa not being in. But man, oh man, PFW coming out of the woodworks and putting some things together late here, midway through in the season. They could be somebody that could be in the hunt. Somebody's gonna pick somebody off, and it's not gonna be pretty. So yeah, hats off to Donald Gleason and his crew. They're doing some damage.
Yep. Yeah, I might add in, I mean, Purdue Fort Wayne had 15 blocks, which is huge. And, Loyola, for a team that's typically super offensive, I think top 10 in the country, if not higher, do you know what I mean, in their hitting numbers, hitting a 135 with, 26 hitting errors, and on top of that, 23 serving errors. I mean, that's a lot of errors for Loyola to have. And then to serve at home and have 23 serving errors, I think, and then we played Purdue the other night, and they're solid. It's consistent across the board, and Carlos is a really good undersized player, and so I'm not surprised they took advantage of Loyola not being clean and created some havoc for them. And yeah, another team in the MIVA that has the tools to be good on any given night for sure.
And then another layer to add on to the blocking that Dan mentioned. So with all that blocking, 15 stuff blocks is obviously massive. Then you add on to that, Loyola, I think, might be one of the best passing teams in the country. In that match, they were in system at 61% of the time, which is like 50% is great for any team. So to be at 60% in, and then from the PFW perspective, to be able to block 15 balls when a team's in system that much, and then dig another 36 balls on top of that, that's a hats off to Donnie and the staff and the team for executing a really detailed scouting report and being in the right spots against some good in-system offense of Loyola, and to slow them down and to do that against a really talented team is an impressive showing from a block defense perspective.
Yeah, we had a chance to play PFW earlier in the year, and I'll tell you, at the time, obviously we were able to beat them, but at the time we were all thinking, man, this team is dangerous. They got a bunch of arms, and not to give away too much of Donnie's tricks and secrets, but he had a serve and pass on a game day. I think I counted one of their guys in the gym took like 120 swings, like on game day. I mean, these guys are not afraid to just train and train and train and train. It was pretty impressive, actually, watching that from.
You watched their serve and pass? Just curious.
Yeah, so the way it was set up at Lindenwood, literally the only place they gave us to hang out was like on the balcony. If you've been to Lindenwood, it's all glass, right? And so we're stretching, waiting to go on and take the floor. And yeah, I mean, not intentionally, Sam, but we definitely were watching for sure.
Not intentionally, but Theo was counting all his swings.
I don't know how many he actually took. It was like 107, but I wasn't actually counting,
Reminds me of being on a bus ride with you and Brad Keller in Cuba. And you're like, yeah, I know this recruit. We're like, that recruit's too young to email. You're like, no. I meant like if I had emailed that recruit, then I would have said this and that. Right, of course.
If I had talked to him in person. I mean, when eventually I talked to him.
Right. If I had watched their serve and pass, he might have hit 107 balls.
Well, anything else to add there? Now I'm like all thrown off. Who picked that match? That was Sam, right? Oh, Jay. But there was a lot of action. You bring up Miva. We brought up Miva Geddon, and that race, as tight as we mentioned already, it's getting even tighter with the this last week of action. But still a lot of matches left because you're right at the halfway point. Is that right, Dan? I think if I counted up the
give or take, most teams are around 8 or 9 matches played, halfway point. So yeah.
So I guess we can kind of go back and go kind of elephant in the room-ish for Dan's matches. Let him pick the next one. Hopefully be one of his. Because you had a pretty good week.
I don't know. 1-1's not pretty good. 2-0 is pretty good, Rob. What are you talking about? So, I can go first. I mean, we played Purdue and thought we were steady, and we're able to get a win in 3 against. I mean, I think in game 2, both teams were siding out at 85 and 80%, and so I mean, it was back and forth match with those guys, and we were able to turn a couple points at the end of those games. And Cam Hoyne for us was certainly pretty good. Again, he had 17 kills against Purdue Fort Wayne, and I think he had 19 in the Ball State match and 5. But Ball State match then on Saturday, I thought we were a little bit ugly on our receive side. Brad was just talking about good pass stuff, and I think we were below 50%, which made it tough. They put some pressure on us serving wise, and we didn't manage maybe as good as we needed to, but we're able to find a way to win game 2 and 3. But I think Patrick Rogers showed up the end of game 4 and 5 when it was stellar. I think he led them with 26 kills, even though he maybe hit 260. He was pretty darn good against us, and good against us in crunch time. And so when you're an ABCA watch list player, that's what you do, right? You know what I mean? You put up those types of numbers. And so unfortunately, we lost a good battle against Ball State in 5 at home on that day. But, little rest and recovery, and then go play the big dogs with UCLA and Hawaii and out in the outrigger. Do you know what I mean? So. Yep.
Cool. All right. Anyone want to comment on the Lewis Flyers week?
Yeah, I just comment on something that happened, and I want all the coaches' take on this. Have we noticed referees in general allowing a little more talk to the net, or not allowing any at all, because apparently Rogers got a red card in the 5th set. And I watched the video. Obviously, I can't hear anything. So if something was said, and that's a whole nother story. But, was it warranted, Dan, or was it not warranted would be my question.
I think they are setting the table earlier in the match about talking through the net a little bit more than they need to. I mean, the guys are chattering and saying some things. You got foreign guys sometimes that say things in certain languages, that they may get away with at times. But I think what you're seeing, at least, and I've seen it at our place a few times, is like instead of just letting them play and kind of chaw a little bit at each other, nobody's going through the net or doing anything. There's a little bit of stare down, maybe a couple words. Like the refs are interjecting and creating yellow cards earlier in the match is what happened. And then Patrick lands and kind of stares down and gives a look to it, and I know Pat. Pat's great. He's awesome. And then I complained. It's like, hey, look what he's doing. So it's like one of those things where it's like they've set the table throughout the match, unfortunately. And I think we're a little quick to give the yellow cards right now versus just let the kids kind of jaw a little bit. But I don't know. Maybe they've been given that directive, and I haven't heard that about, you need to limit the. I do know they're trying to keep the game going faster on us. And the officials have been given that directive about keeping the game moving to the next play. So, like, as coaches, we seem like the whistle is a little fast. But yeah, that's I know that directive has been given.
Wow.
Yeah, it seems to me like they're allowing the talk as long as there's no visual display of confrontation, right? Like if there's some words that are exchanged, but the guy immediately turns back to his team, they're letting that go. But if you're talking and you're machismo at the net while you're doing it, that's immediately getting shut down. At least that's what I've seen over here on the West Coast.
Apparently that has not translated to the Conference Carolinas. and here's my thing. Like if that's being called in certain gyms, there are certain moments that I witness, some stuff. And it's like, hey, I like Moxie. There's a lot of testosterone flowing. Sometimes you're going to get, if you watch basketball and football, what we do is tame compared to some of those things. And I just don't understand why we are not allowing these players to let that energy flow. And as long as there's no direct, F you through the net and, any other direct things said, like, why are we limiting that? Because it's a sport that demands energy, and we're trying to get energy from the fans as well, and we feed off that. So I wonder why we're being so quick to stop these things from happening.
Yep. Well, it's a lot of battles still to be done, and with the competition the way it's going to be, I suspect the MIVA tournament's going to be pretty hot and testy there. Whoever ends up hosting, because it's last week we had pointed out that the 7th place team is only 3 matches behind on the top of the conference, and it's getting even tighter. It's now like 2.5, and there's some great battles still to be had through the week or through the rest of the season. I lost the rise out here, Brad or Thea. I think you guys haven't gone yet, have you?
I have not gone yet.
Hey guys, I am in and out. Sorry, I got another meeting, but I just knew Sam was on here, so I had to come on and say hi to Sam.
Rob, do you have the picture I sent you? Can you post it?
Yeah, here, hold on one second.
Hold on one second.
Ready?
I sent this picture to Rob. I thought you'd appreciate it.
That's what I got.
Oh.
What is that? Someone explain
there
that.
It is.
Nice.
Someone explain what that is.
When
that's good stuff right there.
Notice how Sam is in the middle and I am in the back. We are.
Yeah, we were a coaching staff for a junior national team years ago. We went up to Lake Placid to train, and we had a day off where we went and had some fun. And I got the crew, and we went and rode on the bobsled track training run. And so we got to ride the bobsled down the road. None of us drove or broke. There was a guy that actually did the driving for us, but that, and there's the ski jump inner tube melee that I'll talk about later on. But just some really good memories from some fun times.
Is that from the same year that I came up with Jeremy Price?
Yeah.
I think it was actually.
Yeah, Theo, that's the one where you and I, we had the thing with the bench. We like walked by a bench. There was a whole joke, the whole thing. It was a good time. It was a good summer. Good times.
Good times.
Excellent.
Boom.
All right,
guys.
Dan. We'll see you
catch you
next
soon.
week.
Man,
All right. Bye-bye.
Miss you, Dan.
that might also be the year that we had a Hawaiian guy in the team that brought a box of chocolates. That story shall not be told publicly. But
Plenty of stories
that was,
that we'll just leave it at the photo. We'll just leave it at
yeah,
the photo.
it's a good time nonetheless.
Well, the sad thing is, I don't know if I can get out of this. We may have to have our episode just like this now. I hit stop sharing and it didn't stop sharing, so I got some problems here.
Nice.
Let's see, maybe that. No, here we go. Stop share. There we go. All right, we're back to normal. Dan has departed us from Lewis University, and we still have Brad's pick of the week, apparently, or what he saw or caught his eye this last week.
I'm going to pivot. My original plan was to go over Loyola Ball State, with Loyola beating Ball State in 3, but we've kind of touched on some Geddon within that, but just pretty ridiculous offensive numbers from McElliott, and then also from Machado setting wise, both teams hitting over 400. So those offenses are rolling at both those places, and just interesting to see that match only be 3 sets. I think that's something that all of us looked at and thought it could potentially go to 5. And I don't think either team played their best volleyball on the block defense or transition side of things, but pretty smooth offensively. So let's pivot. We'll go to the battle for LA and take a look into that match where UCLA continues to find their way on the road to win some 5-set thrillers and work their way back into matches after not playing perfect early on and then finding ways to win sets late with their back against the wall. And I think ultimately the consistency of Rama and Rowan, and then you have a supporting cast might not be doing them justice, but then you have David Decker, Sean Kelly, Cameron Thorne, Chris Connolly, just playing some really high-level volleyball around the Rama and Rowan show as well. It's just been really impressive to watch, and to see it really kind of get better as their back gets against the wall has kind of been the piece that's really stood out to me through looking back at some of these matches and seeing it really kind of develop and grow. And then on the USC front, just one of another big matches and big opportunities that they played pretty good at times, but still doesn't seem like they've played their best volleyball quite yet, which might be good or bad, depending on your perspective on it all with it. But yeah, the Battle of LA.
All right, let's go. Panelists, comment in.
I'll go first, and I'll be quick. The difference to me is the amount of service pressure that UCLA brought against USC in the 5th set that first night. And you watched Rowan just go on a tear with his serves and everybody else. It's almost like they found another gear that they didn't have the first 4 sets, which is scary when you think about it. Second night, when it was at UCLA, USC looked good in that first set, and then second set looked pretty good. It looked like they just ran out of gas. They weren't connecting well in the middle of the third. And next thing you know, UCLA just put their foot down and took it to them. But, USC, to me, has some really good pieces. Both their middles are phenomenal. Obviously we talk about Dylan Klein a lot, and their libero is pretty good. I feel like they're missing one right side hitter that can be consistent for them, and maybe their setter makes some errant sets here and there, makes some weird decisions at times and not connecting well. Not saying they're bad players. Don't send me any hate mail, anybody. I'm not trying to get in trouble here. But to me, that looks to be the difference maker for them. If those two kids start to figure it out, I think USC can be really dangerous down the line, and they can cause some headaches, because Tompkinson in the middle is an absolute joke. He's so good. And obviously Dylan does some nice things, but yeah, that's my take on the match. The serving prowess in set 5 the first night was redonkulous.
Redonkulous. Can you define that, Jeff?
This was really interesting match, and I feel like this weekend in general for UCLA was super telling. The Rama had a very pedestrian hitting performance over the course of the weekend, right? I think on the course of the weekend he hit like 250 or somewhere around there, but he passed a 227 on the 3-point scale, and so did not disappear there. And obviously he was the serving target. They served him 74 times in those 2 matches, which was the bulk of where the ball was headed. I thought he did a tremendous job helping keep them in system. What's interesting about this UCLA team is, we've seen a lot of really dominant teams over the years. Obviously, Long Beach last year was really, really impressive in the way that they would beat good teams, but just dominate good teams from start to finish. This UCLA team is different in the sense that I felt like that on night two was probably a more dominant performance out of them, but we watched them go the distance with a lot of teams, right? From Ohio State all the way to USC. We've watched them go five with many, many teams. Doing it at home, doing it on the road, doesn't really matter. What's impressive about them is that they always find a way at the end of the game. And I think Rowan obviously has a lot to do with this, but so does Sean Kelly. At the end of the game or in moments when they really, really need it, these guys step up. The middle blockers do it. Decker does it. Conley does not allow a ball to fall. They play with some real urgency in crucial times. If this team figures out how to be that version all night long, every single match, they're going to be incredibly dangerous. Obviously, they're undefeated, so they're already dangerous. But they're doing it in a fashion I think that's a little bit different than we've seen in years past with the number one team. Yeah, it's impressive, man. They're playing some good volleyball.
Would you call them the hot team at the moment, Theo?
It's a trick question, though.
The trick question.
All right. Anyone want to comment in there else?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. So I think, I agree with a lot of what's been said. I had some friends of mine at the match. They said they were a little surprised that, USC passed well enough, they thought, to set the middles more. I mean, they have these two really physical middles. And to sort of see them underutilized or maybe not set as often as they could, because they do a pretty decent job when we played them setting the middles and medium pass, and it just seemed like they just felt a little more reliant on Dylan Klein and kind of just going to the simple sort of pin set. But to Theo's point, I think UCLA is playing at a different gear, and there's an urgency, like he said, that is just pretty impressive to watch. I bumped into John Hawks yesterday or the day before and was just chatting with him. And he said, they're doing some stuff in the training gym where they're just finding a way to foster that type of competitive urgency, where it doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter what's going on, who is on the floor. They have to win the next point. And that's a really impressive thing, right? I think that's what we're all sort of searching for. But when you can get arguably the best team in the country with some of the best players in the country to have that type of urgency, that's a pretty impressive thing to Theo's point. So I think they're set up to do some really nice things in the future.
Yep. Well, I'll add that, I joked with Hawks when I saw him, because I was actually at the match on Friday night. And even at first point in the beginning of the season, which is like mid-January, teams like Ball State were getting the 20, 21, 22 first against them, and UCLA be down, and they just rip it from them. They'd take the set. Or 5-set matches, they'd be down 1-2. They'd rip it from the team when they go 5. So, obviously they're undefeated. And to what Jay has been saying, the Flu is undefeated. I'm going to actually call you on that one, because I think Flu took its first loss this last week. And I'm not going to reveal the name of the person on that UCLA team, but they were being fed intravenously because they had the flu and they still played that Friday night. And they had a remarkable performance. So, Flu took its first loss, and UCLA is the only team that's undefeated here in 2026. So,
well, and the Flu is also took a loss with that kid Joe Morris from Belmont Abbey that took it to us with the Flu. I'll comment on what Theo talked about. I thought it was interesting, adjusting on the fly. To me, or saying they had another gear. To me, it reminds me. Remember those old trucks when they have like the normal stick shift, but then there was another gear underneath that allowed you to shift from like 2 low to 4 low to 4 high to 2 high, like all these different gears. That's what UCLA seems to have. It does not matter what situation they're in. They can adjust on the fly and make these changes happen to be successful. And that's really a testament to Hawks and his crew and how they're training. So kudos to UCLA finding ways to win, even when it's not pretty at times.
Yeah. Anything else on UCLA USC series? Because if not, I want to bring up a team that's been flying under the radar. We haven't really talked a whole bunch about, and that would be Long Beach State. They come out with a win over Penn State 3-0 this last week as well. Actually, their last match was last Saturday against CUI, but we haven't been talking a lot about Long Beach State. They've only got 2 losses in the season. We know Skylar Varga has been good. We've been hearing a lot of Jake Pizzanti, the new center that's got filled in for Moni Nikolov. But what do you guys? What's the buzz with the number 2 team in the nation?
Well, I think the first thing you got to remember is Pisani walked into a really gnarly situation. Those shoes to fill with Moni, basically rewriting how college setting can look and feel, and everybody has been holding him up to a pretty high standard, and I don't think that's fair to him. He is who he is, right? He's not trying to be Moni. He's trying to be the best Pisani that he can. That being said, it does not look like he is connecting on all cylinders at times. It's not that he is not a good setter. It's not that his team is not good at hitting his sets. It just looks like the connection might not be there as it was last year, maybe some years prior. I think the other thing you got to keep in mind is Varga goes hot and cold right now. He's had some matches where he comes out and he's unstoppable. And then he has some moments. It's not matches, it's moments where he maybe is not as crisp as normal. But if any of these young kids watching this show, or any of you club coaches, you want to show somebody how footwork can be critical, there's a swing that Varga does against Penn State where he is kind of towards the 1/3 line or mark from the left side pin into the court. A set comes and it's probably 3 or 4 feet outside the pin. He takes a two-step close, two-step close, going left, jumping and hitting with authority into the court. And it is one of the most impressive things that I have seen in a while, where a player, just the footwork was phenomenal. The arm swing, the trust, the ability to get there. Watch it if you get a chance, everybody. He covers about 10 feet, 12 feet to get to this ball. It's unbelievable. Long Beach is going to be there in the mix as the year goes on. We're not talking about right now because maybe the matches that they've been playing have not been exactly the highest of power, but they're coming up on a good chunk of good matches coming up, and it's going to be something we'll probably talk about more of.
Yeah. And keep in mind, those 2 losses were only to UCLA both times.
Yeah.
In 5 in one case. So,
yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other piece to keep in mind with Long Beach is they got 3 freshmen on the court. Yeah, Jake Pisani setting, redshirt freshman in his first year setting college volleyball. In the middle, you have Jackson Chris, who's phenomenal middle blocker, real big, real physical, good arm, good serve. And then you have Gajek, the Polish opposite as well, who's beaten out Hertzinovic, who has had a pretty awesome career so far. So you got those 3 freshmen on the court, and they're still playing some pretty high level volleyball, so where that crew's only going to keep getting better with the depth they have in the gym, with what they're doing in practice, and they're going to keep developing, getting better. But you compare that and contrast that with a team like UCLA with so many upperclassmen and so many guys who have so much more experience in those moments and in those matches. It's a little bit different, so they've gotten tested against UCLA, and obviously we're on the short end in those 2 matches, but they're going to be just fine. And especially going in and gearing up for Big West play, it's going to be exciting to get to compete with them and the rest of the crew and those 2 outsides. And it'll be some good volleyball.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it always comes down to serve and pass in our game. And Long Beach is probably one of the best passing teams in the Big West, if not the best passing team in the Big West. In addition to that, against Penn State, they had 13 aces and 18 misses. I mean, as far as ratios are concerned, that might be one of the best serving performances I have seen. But they're lethal from the end line. And so although they didn't have their best hitting night, I think they only hit 212 as a team. I mean, they're deadly as a service. So they essentially held Penn State to 127. So kept them off the net, kept them in trouble, kept them uncomfortable. And you're going to serve like that, you can pretty much do whatever you want from offense perspective. You're going to make that other team pretty uncomfortable.
Top 2 servers in the nation,
Jackson
right?
Chris, 5 aces last night or the other night against Penn State. So pretty impressive showing.
Well, if you look at the national statistics, 1 and 2, Skylar Varga and Alex Kondev. 0.780 ace per set for Varga and 0.750 for Kondev. So they're going to be wicked. Well, Big West play, which starts this week for all the teams. So, well, you guys are a couple in, but the rest of the conference goes. So I know we've gone long in our matches of the week. So I wanted to get your players of the week or the ballers of the week so we can get a good graphic up for the guys. So let's start with Sam.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go for a guy that for a match we didn't mention. I know we were very Miva heavy, but I was watching this McKendree Ohio State win. McKendree comes out with the win 3-0. And I've just been impressed with the play of Nate Flater. He's a guy that we looked at in the recruiting process and just a really high character individual. And to watch him do what he's done at McKendree the last couple of years, and I know he played for Nikki on the, I think it was U23 team this summer. But just his development has been tremendous. But 34 assists, 5 aces, 13 digs. Just a great guy that's leading a great team, and I'm excited to see what he does. He's my pick of the week.
All right, let's go to Brad.
I got Terrell Jordan. Mentioned him a little bit earlier, but he had on 27 swings, 19 kills, hit over 500 on the weekend in the Pepperdine matches. So I got Trey Jordan.
All right, and go to Jay.
I'm going to go Caden Day. Belmont Abbey, outside hitter, transfer from Penn State, 12 kills, 429 against my guys. I can't wait to see what he does next week. Kid's pretty lethal.
All right, and over to Theo.
Yeah, I got two. I got Amir Grant from Lindenwood. Over the weekend, had 16 kills on 25 swings, hit 600. And I got Kai Noah Wade for the Bows. Hit 325 on 80 swings. Hopefully his trainers got some great rehab going for him this morning because he had a huge volume in that Pepperdine matchup.
Yep. I'm gonna actually pick one this week with in place of Dan, but I'm gonna have to go with Sean Kelly. First night against USC, 20 kills, 1 error against a humongous USC block. So very impressive without a doubt. With that, what do we watch? What are some of the top matches to watch in week 11? Let's go reverse order. Theo.
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. I'll tell you what I'm definitely going to be watching, and that is Princeton versus UC San Diego
Tonight.
For many selfish reasons, I'll be watching that in addition to some really high-level volleyball. The other one that I think will be really interesting is Penn State Pepperdine. So obviously Penn State out here, and Pepperdine coming off of a pretty successful week, I think, on the island. I think that'll be a really interesting matchup.
Yep. Let's go over to Jay.
There's so many good ones this week that I'm interested in. I'm going to go with some maybe that aren't on everybody's radar. First of all, I want to see Belmont Abbey against McKendree and Belmont Abbey against Lindenwood. Yeah, I want to see if they continue to play the way they did against us because it was a force to be seen. I also want to see Santa Barbara versus UC Irvine. Santa Barbara seems to have figured a few things out in recent weeks. And UC Irvine obviously is a very good team. I want to see if UC Santa Barbara can steal one at UCI. Obviously, I'm going to be watching Princeton versus Northridge. I think that's going to be fun to watch. And last but not least, I want to see UCLA Hawaii, because this is probably one of the teams that could steal one from UCLA and cause their 0 to have a different digit in their loss column. Some people have mentioned that Hawaii could be the team. I think Hawaii could be the team if they're connecting. So those are the matches I'm going to watch.
I've made a little side note that it's the first streamed broadcast of the UC Irvine for the 2026 season against UC Santa Barbara. Just side note, but there's been a lot of discussion there. So want to get you guys there. It'll be my first match at Irvine in 2026. So let's go over to Brad.
Let's see. I got you guys hit a bunch of them, but we'll there's a few left on the table. I think BYU Stanford will be really interesting. BYU started really, really well. And then obviously lost the 2 matches at Hawaii, but they've played and traveled quite a bit within their schedule. So they'll be going out to Stanford, I believe. So seeing 2 there and that, especially within the MPSF, that 2 through 5 always gets really muddy. So those will be 2 important matches in Stanford. had a good weekend against St. Francis and the week prior at Concordia. So will be interesting to see how that Stanford team's coming along and how that BYU team responds coming off the Hawaii trip last week. Then you got Lindenwood, McKendree, and Purdue, Fort Wayne, Ohio State. Ohio State really needing to kind of get off a tough stretch right here and try to get right. And Purdue, Fort Wayne trying to keep building off a big win for them. And then, throughout the rest of the outrigger, I think just UCLA, Lewis, Hawaii, Mount Olive, I think we'll have some really interesting matches and will be a lot of fun to watch. But I think Lewis, UCLA, and Lewis, Hawaii, I think there's always some weird things that happen at the outrigger, and Dan might be the beneficiary of it at some point this week.
Yep. All right, Sam, what you watching?
All right, you guys took a lot of the exciting matches, but there's a couple others I'm looking at. I want to see our EIVA guys, Penn State taking on USC. I think that's going to be a good match. Excited to see how that goes. Obviously, the outrigger is going to be chock full of good matches, but I'm curious for the CBW matchup of UC San Diego and CSUN. That's going to be a fun one that I'm going to be looking at, and I'm happy to share all my notes after each match if you guys are interested for a nominal fee. But yeah, looking to see how those guys match up against each other. Been studying them all week. I think that's going to be a hell of a battle.
As a famous video game piece once said, round 2, fight.
I thought you would have said, I'm going to look forward to the Princeton CSUN matches, all the data you got from being on the podcast and the volumetrics file available after tonight's match.
Yeah, I can't actually. I'm going to take the transcript of this podcast and throw it into AI and see what I can add to our scouting report once it's done. Yeah.
See, the brains of the podcast is already using new resources that we haven't even. We're still on MySpace, so.
Yeah, that's how I met my wife, was on MySpace. Don't knock it.
That was before Tinder.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah.
Well, a segment that really picked up some steam last week was Jay's Quick Hits. Quick answers for each of the questions. 4 questions this week, just around the horn. I'm going to ask the question, and we'll start with Sam to Jay to Brad to Theo. Okay? You ready? Question number 1. What team has not lived up to the hype this year? Sam.
Oh, God. Who's not lived up to the hype this year? That's a difficult question. Yeah. I don't know. I can't go first. That's too difficult. That's too difficult. I don't know. It's hard to throw people under the bus. I think, I'm part of the AVCA poll. I rank.
Welcome to the podcast, Sam.
Yeah, geez, who has not lived up to the hype?
Here, I'll put one for you. Grand Canyon.
Okay, that's a safe answer. Yeah, Grand Canyon. There you go. There's my answer.
All right, Jay.
I'm going to say it. Ohio State, and not because Ohio State's not good, because everybody else in Amoeba is that good. And I think Ohio State, for me, is probably the one team that at the beginning of the year we all looked at and said, oh, this team could be pretty dangerous. And I think they've run into a couple of weeks where maybe it hasn't gone their way, and I'm wondering what's going on. So that's just my call.
All right, Brad.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke, but you already stole the Grand Canyon one. So I'll follow up. I'll go with the NCAA men's volleyball official Instagram account. And then I think the other piece is just like as coaches, I feel like all of us probably are thinking in some ways where it's like, damn, I wish we had a few matches back, or I wish we could have done that, and especially coming off losing a 5-set match to Santa Barbara on the way home, that 4-hour bus ride. The whole time I was thinking, damn, I wish we could have found a way. So I'm going to say myself and UC San Diego.
Wow. Okay. Theo.
Yeah, I mean, I think the schedule is a big dictator of this, but I think Stanford, they played an incredibly difficult matchup, and I think their schedule has been heavy. But I think that there are a lot of coaches that felt like, man, this team is deadly, and they've got a lot of really nice pieces. The cool thing about this question is we're still in the thick of this, and a lot of time left for things to change. And so be really interesting to see if Stanford finds their way. This matchup with BYU could be a really nice opportunity to get some things going. So,
yeah. By the way, Brad and Sam, you both failed the first question. You guys did not answer anything closely resembling.
I did.
Weak sauce, both of you.
That's my middle name, Jay.
We saw. Well, I'm going to throw Cal Baptist in there also while we're throwing Grand Canyon in there, and LMU. But hey, San Diego State.
You gotta specify the LMU in California there,
Yeah,
Rob.
that's right. Not Lincoln
point.
Memorial, Loyola
Good
Marymount
point.
University. There you go.
All right.
Next question: when the D2 championships start to happen, is men's Division I volleyball in trouble? Sam.
No, not at all.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's one. That's it.
Oh.
Okay, I'll leave it there.
It's around the horn quickly. So Jay.
Got it.
I think scheduling D1 and D2 programs will take a hit because I don't think once D2 has their championship, D1 can put a D2 team on their schedule with regularity and keep their RPI and KPI up.
All right, Brad.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot that has to change within it. So I do think in trouble in the sense of there's going to be a lot of changes in what we think of now and what kind of is normal. That's going to be very different. So if that's trouble, then yeah, I think we're in a little bit of trouble. But like the championship's not going to go anywhere. There's a lot of people who are supporting this sport. So in that sense, not in trouble.
Wait, so I got one word and they
Yeah.
each get 7 or 8
Yeah,
seconds.
I know. Go ahead. As I go back to you, like, we're explaining. Okay. All right, go for it, Sam. Where to go back?
No, all I was going to say is that I don't think we're in trouble. I think it's going to be fine. And the best thing about it is I'm going to get a nice fat steak dinner out of the whole deal. So I'm looking forward to that.
No.
There's a little bit of a bet that was made on someone with this podcast a couple of years ago, and it's about to come due.
No. No.
There's
Hasn't
no
happened yet.
gambling in the NCAA. That's all I'm going to say.
That's fair.
All right, Theo.
Yeah, I initially no, long term yes. I think initially we'll see some things kind of slowly start to change, and I think you'll see some big growth out of D2 that will continue. Long term, I think there's some issues if we don't see some D1 teams start adding.
Here's a follow-up question, and briefly, do we stay at 12 teams if D2 has their championship?
I don't see how.
No. I mean, I'd love to, but the answer is
well, I think we do. If no, I don't know, Jay. I don't think so.
We're there now.
Make it challenging.
But I think the loss of the SIAC and the loss of the Conference Carolinas is going to be the issue.
And the ECC.
Yeah, and the
yes.
ECC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we stay at 12.
I think it'd be really
Yeah.
hard to stay at 12 with the percentage of teams playing.
Yeah.
Oof. Okay, didn't want to hear that one, but hey.
But you know what? Our chances of being top 20 go up. So
And it goes back to the
exciting.
ABCA top 15. Like,
Yeah, maybe.
all right, third question. In the future, should a current head coach be allowed to also be the current coach of the national team? Sam.
I think, ideally, no. I think ideally, if you can find the talent outside, I think it alleviates any kind of pressures to look at two different things. But I think, as we've had in years past, like Sproul, I thought was the best guy for the job, so that was the right call. But I think if there are talented people outside of the profession, I think it's better. I think one of you guys mentioned in the last podcast, Alan Knight, someone like that would be, phenomenal. But yeah, if possible, I think no, but I wouldn't put a rule in place that you can't do it because I wouldn't want to handcuff ourselves to not have the best talented person available for the job.
Yep. All right, Jay.
All valid points, Sam. Absolutely. I can echo those. I'm just going to go out on a limb here on my own and say what a massively distinct advantage anybody would have. But I can't tell USA Volleyball what to do, and I certainly can't tell a coach what to do with their personal and professional lives. So I know you can't mandate against it, but what a massive, massive, massive advantage a coach would have and a program would have.
Yep. Brad.
I'd say yes, because on that note is the person making that call is John Spra. So who's going to know if someone can handle it or someone can manage that other than the guy who has done it most recently for USA Volleyball?
Mm-hmm. All right, Theo.
Yeah, I think it's tough to find talent that isn't in the pool, right? Who isn't currently coaching. But with that being said, looking at the impact that Karch is having right now, him visiting during our season, him visiting Matt Anderson and all of the players on the roster. There's a photo of Karch holding Matt Anderson's kid, right? One of his newest babies. And being able to do that, if you were a coach that's in season, there's no way that you're able to accomplish those same things. And so I think selfishly for our sport, I would want that coach to be dedicated to the national team.
Yeah. Yeah, I recognize that also. He was visiting Micah Christensen in Italy during the men's season. So, I mean, he is actively engaging the current national team members out there, wherever they're
And,
playing professionally.
and on throwing kudos, he's just got back and he's still very active and will be in La Jolla tonight for the matchup with Princeton. So
He'll be giving Sam some pointers, right? Pre-match.
Well,
after the match, he will.
actually, I just got a text from him telling me that he's going to be at the match tonight.
Yeah.
And it goes to Theo's point. I mean, he's a current head coach can't go to every other match and meet with coaches and shake their hands and be at games. And so it is a huge benefit to have obviously someone of his caliber, but also someone outside of coaching college volleyball to be involved. So yeah, I think he's phenomenal. I will also say, just to stir a little bit up from the last podcast I was listening to, I also heard Alfie Ref's name thrown into the mix, Jay. So I don't know. I think that's what I heard. So just to let you know.
Good for Alfie. I love the kid. I'm not saying he shouldn't be. I just was like, that's a weird. It would be. I don't know. Just it was weird. That's all.
I don't think it's weird
I
at
love
all.
you.
He's been in the men's national team as a player, and then spent a quad with Cards,
As
and
a
then now he's coaching
player.
professionally. But he has the coaching aspects as well, and he has the relationships with the men and the women. And
I love how you're all making it look out like I don't want Alfie to be the coach. I'm not saying that. I just think it's a weird. Out of all the people that you can pick, he would not be somebody even in my top 50. Not because I don't love him, and not because he doesn't think. I don't think he's a good coach.
I totally disagree.
Yeah.
All right,
you suck up a lot, Brad.
Hostig@gmail.com. That's hate mail.
I'll tell you.
Right there.
You know who else I heard might be a candidate is the coach of Menlo.
Yeah, that's right. Menlo and Northridge.
Final question to close out the episode. If you could add one new rule, what would it be, Sam?
Oh man, you keep starting with me. What would it be? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get the challenge replay has added a lot to the game. I guess, and I don't know if you can challenge this or not, but I guess sometimes there's net violations that are called that no one seems to have felt or seen or known about, and it stops a beautiful rally from going on. So whether it's a net violation or a small foot fault violation, not a back row attack, but something center line, things like that. I don't know. Some of the smaller ticky-tack things could be just removed and more the spirit of the game than the letter of the law, if the refs would sort of let them play. I'm a fan of that because sometimes it's great volleyball going on and then the game stops. You go, yeah, his piece of his jersey touched the back of the net or something. And you're like, okay. So maybe something to that effect.
Yeah. All right, Jay.
I'm going to be a little not controversial, but I'm going to go one here that might be a throwback to the old times. I want servers to have the ability to have a first serve. So if you hit the ball and it's in the court and it doesn't hit the net, like obviously that counts. If it hits the net but still goes in, it's a first serve again, like tennis. If it hits the net and goes out, you get a second serve. The second serve, I'd like to be something that you have to put in play and it cannot hit the net. So almost like a tennis second serve. So we could see more volleyball happening than just serving back and forth and missing and having 3, 4, 5 points at times not be able to be played. I'd like to see a tennis style rule be implemented into men's volleyball.
All right, Brad.
I was originally going to go with the bonus ball, where you get to pick 1 point per set that is worth 2 points, and if your team wins it or the other team wins it, they get that point. But then I was thinking about it. What if we do a bonus spot? So anywhere on the court, each team gets to select and kind of basically put down, a flat cone. And if the ball ever hits that for a kill or for a point, it's worth 2 points at any point. And you can move it around. So if a team has a small setter or a small outside or a small middle, you can move it to different strategic points to try and do that. So the bonus spot on the court, so you get 2 points at any point if you hit it.
Yep. All right, Theo.
Yeah, mine's a little less flashy. So currently we have 6 subs, and the limitation is 2 subs per spot. I would like to see that go to unlimited if you're using multiple players. So essentially, we ran into an issue in a match earlier this year where we were looking to get additional guys in. We had used a serving sub in a particular spot, and then we kind of ran away with the score and wanted to get another guy in who hadn't really had time to play. And you're unable to do that, right? Because you're limited to that serving sub goes in and then comes out. That spot is dead. No subs allowed left. Even though we had subs to give, we were no longer able to make the sub. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see us go to an unlimited in that space, especially if we're going to be limited to 6. 6 is already a small enough number that we don't need it to be limited to 2 per spot.
I agree with that 100%. That's a great call, Theo. Unlimited subs.
Theo, when you said unlimited subs, I had nightmare and horror stories thoughts of back in the NAIA days when there was unlimited subs and there would be the 6-2 sub every time a team was serving, and the games would take a little bit longer with all those substitutions.
Here's the part I never understood about that in the NAIA. You had unlimited subs, but yet you still had liberos.
Well, here's my thing. You have unlimited subs. Why are we checking them in at the check table?
Right. Just go.
Just go. At this point, long as the ball's dead and you only have 6 on by the time the ball's served.
All right. Well, let me disagree with all of you guys for a couple different reasons. First of all,
smart guys.
First of all, you can't do that, right? Because then you could have, your opposite going to left front, come back to left front. You could put different. You have to keep track of who's coming in and out of the game on some level, even though it's unlimited.
No, you could still have the ref be in charge, so that scores table ref could still be in charge of watching the subs.
And besides, Sam, if you were actually doing that, you'd be a cheater, and we all would not schedule you.
No, but not
we're doing that.
And also, by the way, Theo, I don't love the unlimited rule just because I think in the case you're giving, it makes sense. You're up, you want to get a guy in, sure. But to Brad's point, all of a sudden now you're going to game plan some different things. 6-2s, multiple subs, multiple serving subs, different.
But Sam, you're still at 6 subs total. That's it. So if you want to use it on a 6-2, you can't sub anybody else.
I
like the rules the way they are.
The women's game is 16 subs and then unlimited.
It's stupid. And Sam,
I'm just saying, I think if we go to unlimited, 6 makes sense.
Sam, you're a coach that loves to play around with different lineups and different looks. Like, it just would make sense to me that you would love that rule. I don't know why you're fighting that.
Because I'm a contradiction wrapped in an enigma, Jay.
You're a contrarian by heart.
That's the Ivy League loves tradition, Jay. Tradition.
Right. Sorry. I'm going to add mine in here because no one mentioned this during our podcast episode, but I'd love to see the green card rule implemented in men's volleyball, which is you call.
I thought you were going political all of a sudden.
Oh, no.
Wait, what?
Because in one of the USC UCLA matches, I'm not going to name the players, but a ball was hit, the blocker touched it, the attacking team challenged because it was called out, but it was pretty apparent from the view of the broadcast that the opposing team touched the block. And they even panned into this athlete's face at the, after the play. And you just knew from the look that there was a touch, and somehow the touch wasn't called, even though the ball changed spin and directions.
Did they challenge, Rob?
Part of it. Yeah, it was a challenge, but that's part of it is it's not our job to confess touches in those situations. And for better or for worse, not every challenge system's the same. So there's balls that we've touched. Heck, probably in our match with Theo, there's probably a challenge that we touched or that a ball that Theo touched.
Just maybe.
And it's but we don't confess it because you don't know what you're going to get from these cameras, right? And then even we challenged the ball up at Santa Barbara and the video just dropped out.
So what's the purpose of the green card?
Well, it's just good sportsmanship is what the FIVB did for VNL.
Hey, Theo, good sportsmanship, not, swaying the referees for decisions. That would just be so weird if that happened.
That's why I threw it out there.
A collection of 10 green cards, you get to take a loss off your schedule.
Well, let's just say
what if you got a $10,000 donation if you had the most green cards at the end of the year?
Yeah.
Now we're talking. Brought to you by
there was
Salvation Army.
There was
Well,
a $30,000 bonus for the team with the most green cards when they did that in the VNL. What was that, 3 years ago, I think?
Cool.
So
Is that
when
what it
you
was?
call so you're telling me the green card is when a team volunteers
It
that you
says,
were in
yeah,
the wrong.
When
So-
there was a
Right.
challenge, if they would confess it before the video
So-
showed it.
Yeah, we did that a couple weeks ago. Actually, it's fun when you know you can get away with it. But I'm with Rob. You're not obligated to give anybody any points, and if it's close, I ain't saying a thing.
We did so we played at home against USC last year, and that exact situation took place. There was a ball that was clearly touched, and it impacted the trajectory. USC challenges, and I told them, don't even look at it. It's a touch. And we moved on because it was so obvious, and the line judge made an awful call.
Yeah.
Like it was just absolutely terrible. And I don't want to sit there for 15 seconds and figure it out. I'd rather just move on and let's go.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned that because I just happened to see the comments on the players involved. They happen to be friends and they're on each other's feeds. And the discussion, the bantering.
I'm going to give Sam a little kudos here. He is notorious for being a coach that will give calls, especially at his place when it's not the right call. And you gotta show that a little love because not all the coaches do that. And I think it's something to be said. Green cards are kind of cool. I swear to God, I thought you were going political with it. And I was like, well, you're talking about international players all of a sudden. You're like, you'd only have 2 green cards per set. Like, whoa.
It's a very delicate subject.
That is not what I was talking about.
If you play in Division I, you automatically get a green card. Come on, Rob.
Well, there we go. I'm glad we ended on that note. So this is episode 299, College Volleyball Weekly, Men's Top 20, Week 10 recap and Week 11 preview. Special guests, Sam Chweisky of Princeton, Jay Hossick of George Mason, Brad Rothstein of UC San Diego, Theo Edwards of Cal State Northridge, and leaving us early. Well, coming in late, leaving early, Dan Frand of Lewis. So, gentlemen, best of luck to your matches. I know some of you see each other this week. So I'll just say, hope you guys play well. So thanks for coming on, boys.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Good luck, Jay.
everybody.
Thanks for listening to College Volleyball Weekly. Be sure to follow Rob Aspero at the Rob on the Mic on Instagram and at Rob on the Mic on Twitter.